At America's SBDC Network, our mission is simple: to help businesses grow and succeed. Our consulting, training, and information services make it easier for businesses to reach their potential. Whether you're currently in operation or just starting out, America's SBDC Network has the right tools, resources, and expertise to help you succeed. Visit us online or contact your local office to get started on your path to success today.
Hello and welcome to the Grow Smart program. My name is Natalie Flores Gonzalez, and on behalf of the University of Houston, Texas Gulf Coast SBDC Network, I would like to thank you for taking the time to watch this recording. Your program facilitator today is Tim Fulton, owner of Small Business Matters. Before we begin, I want to make sure you know that the Small Business Development Center is here to help you either start a business or grow an existing one. We provide business advising, access to training, tools, and resources to help small businesses start, grow, expand, and succeed. The SBDC network comprises 14 centers covering 32 counties along the Texas Gulf Coast. Each center works with hundreds of businesses of all types and sizes every month on a variety of issues. Our team has the skills, expertise, and talent to help you take your business to the next level. Please feel free to contact Gina Matei or myself should you have any questions. We are here to assist you in whatever you might need. Also, be sure to visit our website at sbdc.uh.edu and subscribe. Once you subscribe, you'll be able to access over 90 free webinars and receive weekly updates on matters that matter to business owners. Thank you again for joining us during this recording and for participating in the Grow Smart program. We would also like to stress how important it is for you to attend each session live so you can participate in all of the exercises that Tim presents during the program. I will now turn it over to Tim. Thank you.
Thank you and good morning, everyone. Good to see you this morning. A couple quick notes on I'm looking forward to the one-to-one meetings next week. I think that the two dates that I initially had put out have filled up. And so now I'm just going to have to kind of fill in for any additional one-to-ones. If you haven't scheduled yet, email me directly at timfulton@hotmail.com, timfulton@hotmail.com, and I'll be happy. We'll find a spot for you for your one-to-one. I want to make sure everyone has an opportunity to meet. So if you haven't scheduled yet the one-to-one, just email me directly. And then on the best work data behavioral assessment, a couple people have had some technical issues with that. If you have any issues logging on or getting onto the assessments or completing the assessments, let me know. Again, I'll do everything I can to try to facilitate that. I want to make sure everyone has a chance to complete the assessment. And then I'll be sharing the reports from that assessment with you when we get together for our one-to-one session. Okay, let's see. So last week, let's do a quick review. Let me pull up the PowerPoint and let's see here. Go backwards and then we'll go forwards. How's that? So last week we started off defining marketing. Talked about the importance of failing, of making mistakes in marketing. Okay to make mistakes. Okay to have kind of a laboratory mindset. Talked about the importance of marketing being simple, trying to uncomplicate your marketing as much as possible. We looked at this definition for marketing, very important. Marketing means solving customer problems profitably. We differentiated between sales and marketing. There always has been confusion about, okay, what is marketing? What is sales? How do they work together? How are they different? So we differentiated between those two. We then looked at 4 trends in marketing, the first of which is going from traditional marketing, interruption marketing, to what we have now is permission marketing. We also talked about going from outbound marketing, essentially pushing our messages out, to what we see more of now, inbound marketing is just making it easier to be found, making it easier for customers, prospects to find us. The third trend in marketing, going from first person marketing, essentially Tim talking about his own business. First person marketing to third person marketing is where we find other people, customers, influencers, the media, to talk about us in a favorable way, which has more credibility in the minds of the consumer, third person marketing. And then the fourth trend in marketing, we've gone from, in terms of measuring results, what has essentially been a soft return on investment historically, hard to tell if marketing is working or not, to today, much easier to judge and evaluate our marketing. And that's something we're going to talk about this morning. I'll give you a couple different ways of measuring your ROI, your results in your marketing efforts. So your assignment from last week was to watch the Seth Godin TED Talk. I hope you had a chance to do that. Some really good takeaways on marketing from that, and a good historical perspective that Godin gave us there as well. And then I introduced you to the marketing cycle that we go through in terms of our marketing efforts. Starts off with market research. If you recall, we talked about the importance of doing research on your product, service, whatever it is that you sell, doing research on your competitors. We talked about different ways of doing that. And then we differentiated between your direct competitors and your indirect competitors. And then third, maybe most importantly, we talked about the importance of understanding and better understanding your customers. And we talked about the importance of understanding the demographics of your customers and also the psychographics of your customers at all. We talked about vitamins and aspirin and understanding what it is that you're selling. Are your customers in pain? Do they need relief from pain? Or are they looking for something preventative, something that might make them feel better? Aspirin versus vitamins. And so I think that's as far as we got last week. Where I want to pick up today is, let's see, yep. So I'm going to exit this. Where I want to pick up today is talking about your competitive advantage. If you find that page in your handout on the top of the page, it's page 17 in this module. It says, what is your competitive advantage? So this is where I want to start off today, talking about competitive advantage. Very important topic in marketing, understanding what makes you different, what makes you better, what is your only. Anytime someone says, well, we are the only, I know I'm about to hear a competitive advantage. And so much of our marketing strategy is anchored in our competitive advantages, what it is that we're better at, what do we do differently. So let's start off first defining competitive advantage. Three factors define a competitive advantage. Number one, it has to be a core competency, your competitive advantage. Core competency meaning something that we do really well. Your competitive advantage has to be a core competency. Secondly, a strength, again, something you do well. Second, for something to be a competitive advantage, it has to be unique to your business. It cannot be something that each of your competitors may also claim to be theirs. You need to be able to say, okay, we are the only ones that do blank. That makes it a competitive advantage. It needs to be unique. And then third, for something to be a competitive advantage, it has to be something that is of value, of importance to your customers. It has to be something they need, something they want for it to be a competitive advantage. So you might have something that distinguishes you, something that is a real strength of your business, but if it's not important to your customers, if they don't value that, it's not a competitive advantage. Okay, so those are the three things that define a competitive advantage. So you see the next item on that same page, it asks you to identify three of your company's competitive advantages. Now that you know what a competitive advantage is, What are 3 of your competitive advantages? Take a moment, write those down there on that same page.
So is it all three, or is it going to be one?
No, I'd like you to identify 3
I get that, but is a competitive advantage all three components that you just mentioned?
Yes,
All
yes,
three
Helen,
factors?
yeah, that's the litmus test. A, it's got to be a core competency. B, it's got to be unique to your business. And C, something that's valued by your customers. So what are your competitive advantages? You would find these in your marketing materials, PowerPoint, your advertising. What is it that you brag about relative to your business? Jack Welch is famous for saying, if you don't have a competitive advantage, don't compete. If you don't have a competitive advantage, don't compete. Very hard to compete without it. There was a study that was done not long ago that found that almost 95% of company employees lacked agreement as to what their company's competitive advantage is. That's astounding to think that such a high percentage of employees aren't sure what their company's competitive advantages are. So let's hear some examples. Let's see, John, we'll start with you. Competitive advantage, what comes to mind?
Well, for Mathnasium, we teach only math. I mean, that's our expertise. You know, we don't try to do English and science and history and all the rest of that stuff. And so we were an expert in one area. So you know, we specialize.
So
That's
we specialize, a single focus. Good. Jason, how about for you? And Mike, you'll be next. Jason, a competitive advantage.
A little bit on the opposite of that idea is that we're actually multidisciplinary, so we're able to bridge the gap between the scientists and engineers.
Okay, good. Mike, how about for you? A competitive advantage.
All our coffee is 100% Arabica beans and custom small batch roasted, not continuously roasted, which differs from the big folks out there.
Okay, so your uniqueness is in the product itself and the nature of the product itself. Good. Julie, what came to mind for you? A competitive advantage. And Clara, you'll be next.
So at Positive Recovery, our curriculum that we utilize is our competitive advantage for sure, because it's all based in positive psychology. So everything that we do, that's who we say we are through and through, and everything that we do is couched in positive psychology.
Okay, good. So that causes you to stand apart. Seth Godin wrote a book, and the title of the book was called Purple Cow. And what he suggested in the book is, when you think about your competitive advantages, think of a purple cow. Imagine if you were driving your car outside of Houston farmland and you saw a purple cow in the middle of a pasture. That cow would stand apart. It would be unforgettable. And that's what you want your competitive advantage to be. You want something that causes you to stand apart. You want to be a purple cow. Clara, how about for you?
So we have one stop location. We can have all your marketing collateral, all your operations materials when you need them, and as many as you need.
Okay. So one stop, you don't have to go to 3 different places. We can handle this for you. Let's hear one more. Drew, how about for you? A competitive advantage.
All right, you able to hear me?
Yep.
All right, ours is a mobile app.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
So that would be.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be like our competitive edge for that.
Okay, and your competitors do not have that?
Right. So it offers a lot of features, like you can know when the team's on their way, when they finish, and things like that. So it offers a lot of features that would be beneficial to the customers.
Okay, good. So we heard about a half a dozen examples of competitive advantages. What did you think? Good ones? Yeah? Yeah. Well, when I heard those competitive advantages, and well, when I hear most competitive advantages, 3 words come to mind. You ready? Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. I could have written down those 6 competitive advantages before I heard them because I hear the same competitive advantages every time I ask. One-stop shop, single focus, unique product features, blah, blah, blah. And we wonder why we're not able to set ourselves apart. We wonder why we're not able to differentiate ourselves. Well, when I gave you the definition of competitive advantages, first of all, no fault of yours. Most companies do the same thing. When I gave you the definition of a competitive advantage, I left something out, an important part. And that is, for something to be a competitive advantage, there must be proof or evidence of that competitive advantage, or it's not a competitive advantage. There must be proof or evidence that we can cite relative to that competitive advantage, or it's not a competitive advantage. Okay, so John, I want to come back to you if we might. So what would be the proof or evidence that of the competitive advantage that you shared, that you are single focused? What would be the proof or evidence of that? And because remember, the mindset of the consumer is one of distrust, is one of cynicism, is one of, I don't know if I believe that or not. So what proof or evidence would you give me of that competitive advantage?
If it's going to be unique, obviously you could list your competitors A, B, C, and D, and have the different topics that different things that they work on. So if they work on 5 items or 6 items, they're not a single focus unique. That would be one that I would think of. The other thing in terms of our corporate, my wife's got a doctorate in math education. I don't think there's too many people out there who have owners who are actually have a doctorate in mathematics education.
I like both of those. So let's go to the first one. How many direct competitors would you say you have?
I probably have 6.
Okay. How many of those only do math tutoring?
None.
Beautiful. Okay. So of the 6 direct competitors in our marketplace, we are the only ones that only focus on math tutoring. So
correct.
You see how I introduced just a small piece of evidence. The evidence is there's six choices out there. We're the only ones that offer just math. And then the other might be, we have, you've got choices. There are half a dozen other tutors out there. We are the only ones that have a PhD in math leading our tutoring efforts. Proof or evidence of the competitive advantage. Mike, let's come back to you. So you cited the competitive advantage was about your product itself, the uniqueness of your product. So what would be the proof or evidence that that's a competitive advantage?
Some coffees by some of our competitors have been reported to have higher caffeine content, which would suggest that they use lower quality Robusta beans, which have higher caffeine qualities. We use only 100% Arabica, the most high quality beans. They're more fragile. They're grown at the higher elevations in the mountains than the Robusta beans. They're harder to grow. They cost more. Also, a person could go tour our roasting facility in New Orleans and see our small batch roasting process, which is proof that we limit our roasting to 300 pounds. It's not continuous large batch roasting.
Wow. So for a non-coffee drinker, that sounded pretty impressive. Is there any third-party research that suggests that coffee bean you're using is indeed unique? Any third-party research?
Yes.
So that's where I would go for you, as you state that competitive advantage, would be able to say, according to, and whoever the source is, according to this source, this is the only coffee bean, this is the best coffee bean, whatever it might be.
And so therefore you have identified an area where I need to be able to have that on the top of my head instead of, oh, let me go pull this file here and get the information for you.
Top of mind, and then be able to cite that in all of your marketing efforts, your advertising efforts. So this idea of making sure you have proof or evidence comes from the author Janie Smith. She wrote a really good book called Creating Your Competitive Advantage, and she spent her entire career helping companies differentiate themselves, helping companies create and leverage their competitive advantage. And what she's found is the most effective tool, the most effective trick essentially, is making sure that when you identify your competitive advantage, that you also state what is your proof or evidence, because that's what takes your competitive advantage from blah, 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 this is what everyone else is saying, to wow, this is unique, this is different. This causes this company to stand above everyone else. And then when you use your competitive advantages, which you should in all of your marketing, your website, your brochures, your PowerPoint presentations, whatever marketing you're doing, you want to use these competitive advantages, state your competitive advantages, and make sure that you identify that proof or evidence. That's what gives your marketing that extra push, that fuel to be successful. Okay.
Can you repeat the name of the book again, Tim, please?
Creating Your Competitive Advantage, written by Janie Smith, Jaynie. So let me show you, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. I want to show you a couple examples of this. First of all, I never thought I would be quoting the Grateful Dead in any training workshop, but they're famous for saying this: success isn't about being perceived as the best at what you do. It's about being perceived as the only ones who do what you do. You don't have to be the best. You want to be the only. You want to be that purple cow. So let me find somewhere here. I've got some examples. Yeah, so here's one example. This is IBM. I saw this in a magazine, and I know that you probably very hard to read what it's, the top headline there. One second. Get out of the way. Yeah, it says IBM Cloud supports 24 of the top 25 Fortune 500 companies. So that's not their competitive advantage. Their competitive advantage has to do with their technology, but the proof or evidence of that competitive advantage is that 24 of the top 25 Fortune 5 companies use their cloud. That's compelling evidence. 24 of the top 25 Fortune 500 companies use our technology. So that's a good example of that. And then let's see. Yep, the next one. This was an ad for Prudential Financial Group with a 94% retention rate. Judge us by the companies that we keep. So again, their competitive advantage is they've got great financial tools, they've got great resources, they've got great service, blah, blah, blah. But what gets us is the proof or evidence. They have a 94% retention rate. That's what gets our attention. It's not the competitive advantage as much as the proof or evidence of the competitive advantage. So that's what we have to zero in on. Okay. All right, let's go back. So as we look at our competitive advantage, understand that your customer or your prospect is going to have one of three different perspectives when they are exposed to your competitive advantage. One of three ways that they're going to respond to your competitive advantage. The first is they're going to see your competitive advantage and they're going to say to themselves, I get it. I get it. I get it that Mike's Coffee is different. It's unique. It's better. I get it. The second way that they might respond to your competitive advantage is, I want it. I want that. That sounds really good. I want that. The third way that they might respond to your competitive advantage is, I can't get that anywhere else. Which of these three do you want your prospects, your customers to respond? Which of these three sounds best? Yeah, I can't get it anywhere else. That's how you want. It's okay for them to say, I get it, I understand. It's okay if they say, okay, I want that product, I want that service. But the best response is, based on what they see in your competitive advantage, I can't get that anywhere else. So different, so unique, so much better. I can't imagine getting that anywhere else. That's what we're looking for. Okay. So this is a quote from two consultants, two authors, Chris Zook, James Allen. They said, over the long run, a company's strategic differentiation, how we separate ourselves and execution, matter far more to a company's performance. Research suggests 4 times more than the business we happen to be in. Every industry has leaders and laggards. The leaders are typically the most highly differentiated. We tend to think that our success might be grounded in the industry that we're in, right? We just got lucky and we landed in a nice sector, a nice industry, but the research suggests that's not what makes us successful. What makes us successful is our ability to differentiate ourselves, to separate ourselves from our competitors. And that's where our competitive advantages come into place. The next thing I think in your handout, your participant guide, is you have a competitive advantage audit in there. It's 3 pages of questions that once you've arrived at your competitive advantages, once you've determined what are your competitive advantages, the way to test those competitive advantages is to answer the questions there on, in my book, it's pages 18, 19, and 20. Your pages might be different. So I encourage you, after our session this morning, is to work your way through that competitive advantage audit and see how your competitive advantages stand to this audit. Robert Stevens, who was the founder of the Geek Squad, Best Buy, said the following. He said, marketing is the tax we pay when we are unremarkable. The less differentiated our products or service, the more we have to invest and spend on our marketing. Marketing is the tax we pay when we are unremarkable. Okay. All right, so I want to switch gears. So very important topic, competitive advantage. I want to now turn to another, what I think is equally important topic, and that is your pricing. I find pricing is one of the most misunderstood areas of marketing. It's an area that I find many small businesses just take for granted, right? We just set our prices like everybody else, not a lot of thought strategically about our pricing, which is unfortunate because in terms of profitability, so much of our profitability is determined by our pricing. So there are, you might know a little trivia. The first people that we know who invented the price tag are the Quakers. Back in the 1600s, the Quakers, in selling their goods, started putting little pieces of paper on whatever it is that they were selling. And that was the first time that we know of that anything had a price tag. Prior to that, everything was negotiated. All prices were negotiated. They were haggled. They were disputed until the Quakers decided to put a price tag on their products. Warren Buffett, all of you I'm sure have heard of Warren Buffett. He said the following. He said that the single most important business decision in evaluating a business is a company's pricing power. How much influence do they have over their own pricing? So as we think about pricing, there are three considerations in establishing our pricing strategy, and you see them up here on the screen. The first is the positioning of your products and services in the mind of the consumer. How do they perceive your products? Do they see them as being high quality, low quality? Do they perceive your pricing as high priced or low priced? How do they perceive your product? That's one consideration in establishing your own pricing strategy, is how do they perceive your product or service? The second consideration is your customers, and this should say your customers' price elasticity. Your customers' price elasticity. Essentially, what that means is, to what degree do your customers respond to a change in prices? If you change your price, does that have a significant change in the demand for your product or services? Or an insignificant change in demand? If your prices went up 5%, 10%, would sales go down 5% or 10%? Or would there be no change in demand? We refer to that, if you've ever taken a class in economics, we refer to that as price elasticity of demand. To what degree is there a change in demand based on a change in price? And there's some products and services where even a slight change in price triggers a significant change in demand. Versus on the flip side, there's some products, like I would argue gas. If the price of gas goes up 5 cents, I don't think we're going to stop buying gas, right? We still buy gas. So think about what happens when you raise the price or lower the price of your product or service. What happens to demand? And then the third factor, the third consideration in establishing your pricing, are your costs, your material costs, your labor costs, your overhead costs. We factor all of those costs in when we're establishing our own prices. And if our costs go up, more than likely, we're going to consider raising our product pricing, or vice versa. So whatever costs you have, factor in considerably into your pricing strategy. Okay, which of course makes the assumption that you know your costs, you know what your direct costs are, you know what your overhead costs are. You've got a pretty good idea of what those already are. Okay. So in your handout, if you turn to the next page, you have it says on the top, a creative pricing primer. And you see there 19 different pricing strategies. Who knew that there were that many different ways of establishing our prices? But I want you to just take a quick look at that page. Look at the different pricing strategies and see if you can find your pricing strategy there. How do you go about setting your pricing? Is it image pricing, pay one pricing, captive pricing, discount pricing? How would you describe your pricing strategy today? Probably the three most traditional pricing strategies are cost-based, where we take whatever our costs are and we then add on some margin to that, cost-based pricing. The second is what's referred to as competitive-based pricing, where we look to see what our competitors are charging, and then we charge a price relative to that of our competitors. And the third kind of traditional pricing strategy is what's referred to as value-based pricing. Value-based pricing is looking at whatever it is that we're selling, our product or service, and determining, okay, what is the value of that product? What would someone be willing to pay for that product based on its value, based on what it's delivering to the customer? And then we set a price based on that value. So let me do a quick example here. Let's see, let me stop share. And Laura, are you there? Laura?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the game show The Price is Right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're gonna, you sound like a big fan. We're gonna play The Price is Right. Are you ready? So
Yeah.
I'm gonna identify a product, and these are Houston prices. I actually did some research this morning, and I want you to tell me what you think they sell for. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. A gallon of milk, what does that sell for in Houston today?
Coconut milk, $2.98.
Wow, it's $2.99. That's really good. Really good. All right, how about a loaf of bread?
Depends. Organic, $3.99.
Basic bread, cheap bread.
Okay, that will be $2.05 maybe.
Ooh, $2.23. Very good guess. All right, third one, last one. Are you ready?
Yep.
A gallon of gas, regular gas in Houston today, how much?
I don't know. I'm just gonna guess.
Okay, go ahead.
It could be $2.85.
Ooh, that one you're a little, anyone want to guess on gas? How much is gas today?
209.
Good guess, 208 is the correct answer as of this morning. Laura, I have one more. Are you ready?
Yep.
Bottle of Louisiana hot sauce, how much?
That will be Louisiana hot sauce. That will be maybe, if it's organic, $4.99. If not, $3.99.
Ooh, I got bad news. I have no idea what Louisiana hot sauce sells for. I have no idea, because whenever I buy it, I don't look at the price. I just buy Louisiana hot sauce.
Oh yeah, but now you can buy organic or non, and it depends on the brand also.
Sure, yeah. My point is, there are certain products and services that we all know how much we should be spending. If I'd asked any of you for those prices, my guess is you would have done as well as Laura did on gas, on bread, on milk. We all kind of know what those items, what we can expect to pay. And the same, I bet, is true with many of your products and services, that you all sell some things that people kind of know what they can expect to pay for your products and services. But Louisiana hot sauce, my guess is that none of you would have gotten the right answer on that. I couldn't tell you what it is, because it's not the type of product that we just typically know how much to pay for. So my question to each of you is, what are you selling today that is the equivalent of Louisiana hot sauce? What are you selling today that no one knows what they should be paying for it? Because that's generally where, in terms of pricing, that's generally where you have the greatest opportunity. Because what you're selling that everyone already knows the price, not a lot of room to maneuver there, right? People know how much they should be paying for many of the products you're selling. But it's my belief that every company should be selling at least one product that is your equivalent of Louisiana hot sauce. You should be selling at least one product or service that no one knows what they should be paying, which allows you to charge, to have a good margin on that product or service. What is your example of Louisiana hot sauce? Okay. Now, let's turn to the next page in your handout. On the top of the page, it should say effect of a price discount. Everybody see that page? So what we've put together here is an Excel spreadsheet that looks at the impact of both a price discount and a price increase. Now, how often are you thinking about either lowering your price or maybe even raising your price? So we look at this let's look at the top half, the effect of a price discount. And let's look at an example. Let's just assume on the x-axis, horizontal axis, you see different levels of gross margin. So let's just assume that we're operating at 30% gross margin, that your company operates at 30% gross margin, meaning if you sell something for $1, you get 30 cents in gross profit. 30% gross margin. And let's assume that we're thinking about a 10% price discount. 10% price discount. So what we're going to find is, what is the percentage increase in our sales that will be required to maintain the same 30% gross profit after a 10% price discount? So we put our finger on 10% on the left-hand side. We work our way across to 30% gross margin. And what do we find? We've got to sell 50% more product at 30% gross margin to make up for that 10% price discount. Wow. So if you're selling 100 products a day, you now need to sell 150 products a day if you decide to lower your price 10% at a 30% gross margin. That's a lot. 50% is a lot of extra product. Let's look at a second example. Let's say we're going to stay at a 30% gross margin. How about a 5% price discount? 5% price discount. How much more will we have to sell? Luis, how much more will we have to sell with a 5% price discount?
We have to sell 20% more.
Correct. We're going to have to sell even a 5%. That seems like a very small discount. At 30% gross margin, we're going to have to sell 20% more sales volume to make up for that 5% discount. So I want you to keep this handy, because the next time you're thinking about lowering your price, whether it's across the board a price discount, or maybe just for one particular customer, I want you to look to see how much more you're going to have to sell at that price discount. Now, the bottom chart looks at the impact of a price increase. What percentage drop in sales can be sustained to maintain the same gross profit after a price increase? So let's look at an example. Let's assume, again, we're operating at a 30% gross margin. So put your finger on 30% gross margin. Let's look at a 10% price increase. 10% price increase. Margarita, how much more or how much less can we afford to sell and stay and maintain our 30% gross margin?
75.
25% is correct. 10% price increase, we can afford to sell 25% less than we did before and still maintain the same profit, the same gross profit. Everybody see how we found that? Yeah. So again, as you're making pricing decisions, either raising prices or lowering prices, I want you to use this chart. First of all, you have to know, what is your gross profit margin? And each of you should know that. Are we 50%, 40%, 60% gross margin? And then as you're making pricing decisions, I want you to use this spreadsheet to determine how much business either you're going to have to make up, or how much with a price decrease, or how much business you can afford to lose with a price increase. Okay? So if you're curious, how did we arrive at this math? If you turn, I think it's the next page in your handout, it explains the math behind that chart. Okay? All right, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint here for a moment. Oh, what happened to it? Let's see. So I lost the PowerPoint here for a second. I lost the, oh, I'll have to pick it back up here. Let's see. Give me just a second. I'm going to pull the PowerPoint back up. There we go. So let's see here. So 4-step pricing process. This was, you go back a couple pages in your handout, I think. Yep. 4-step pricing process. First step is to determine what are referred to as your pricing boundaries. For any business, there are 2 pricing boundaries. There is a price ceiling. Price ceiling is the most you could ever charge for your product or service. And the second price boundary is what's called a price floor. The price floor is the lowest amount you could ever charge for your product. So step number 1, determine your price boundaries. Step number 2 is once we've determined that price ceiling and that price floor, we then want to fine tune our price in between those 2 boundaries. We don't want to go higher than the price ceiling. We don't want to go lower than the price floor. So we fine tune our price. Step 3, we then establish our price. We set our price. We say, okay, we're going to charge X amount for our product or service. And then step 4, and the most overlooked step in the pricing process, we evaluate this pricing decision. Are we getting more sales, less sales? Have we gained customers? Have we lost customers? More market share, less market share? What impact did this pricing decision have? What were the results from this pricing decision? Okay, so this is the 4-step pricing process.
Tim, I have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry, do you mind? When you're determining that pricing boundaries, are you determining that on what everyone else in your space is charging, or is that also based upon what you need to, from a revenue standpoint, in order to provide those services?
Julie, that's a very good question. You would take, again, the 3 things into consideration. 1, your costs. What is it costing us to provide this service? If it's a service business, it'd be the cost of your service providers. What are they costing you? Second is you would look at your competitors. How does this price fit relative to what our competitors are charging? And third, you would look at the value proposition. What value is your customers assigning to your product or service? Because your costs may be $1, but your customers may be saying, that's a $10 pen. I'm willing to pay $10 for that pen. So a lot of that comes from that research, that customer research that we talked about last week, and understanding, are we selling aspirin? Are we selling vitamins? Are the customers in pain? To what degree are they, doing competitive pricing? All those factors would come into play in determining where we're going to set our pricing. Does that help? Yeah, good. All right, so there was an interesting study that was done looking at the power of price. They looked at what is a 1% change to several different factors. What is the impact of a 1% change on profit, operating profit? So the first thing, and then this study looked across all industries, all size companies, from very large companies, very small companies, all industries, wide picture. So the first thing they looked at was price, and they found that on average, a 1% increase in price results in a 11% improvement in operating profit. I want you to think about that for just a moment. On average, a 1% increase in price results in a 11% improvement in profit. How many of you would like an 11% improvement in your profit? Yeah. How many of you could raise prices 1% tomorrow? Meaning if you're charging $1 today, you'd increase that to $1.01 tomorrow. Yeah. Let's compare this 1% change to other 1% changes. they found on average a 1% decrease in our variable cost. Variable cost is your cost of sales, right? Whatever it costs you to make or sell your product. 1% decrease in variable costs on average leads to just under a 8% increase in operating profit. Okay, that's pretty good. Not as good as the 1% change in price, but that's pretty good. Third thing they looked at was sales volume. On average, a 1% increase in sales volume led to just over a 3% improvement in operating profit. Okay, not too bad. And then finally, a 1% decrease in your fixed costs. Your fixed costs are your operating expenses, your overhead. On average, a 1% decrease in your fixed costs led to just over a 2% improvement in operating profit. So Drew, I have a quick question for you. Based on what you see here, just top of mind, if you want to improve profitability, where would you start?
Price increases.
Yeah, you'd raise prices, absolutely. But what's interesting is I work with owners of small companies. When they're thinking of profitability, where do you think they start? What's the first place they go?
I start with labor. I don't know where the others would do, but we start with.
That would be your variable cost or a fixed cost, depending on what the people are doing.
Right.
My experience is that most small businesses, when they want to improve profitability, they start with their fixed costs and they say, okay, let's cut marketing, let's cut overhead, let's cut utilities, let's try to, pay less rent. They start with their fixed costs. And if that doesn't work, then they go to sales and they go to everybody in the company and tell everybody, go get more sales. Everybody, go get more sales because we want more profit. And if that doesn't work, they look at variable costs and they beat up on their vendors. They beat up on their suppliers to try to negotiate better pricing from their suppliers. And last but not least, if all those don't work, oh boy, I guess I'm going to have to raise price. And yet, in terms of return on investment, so to speak, bang for your buck, the most impactful change you can make is raising your prices. Raising your prices. And here's something else to think about, because it's not unusual. I'll ask a business owner, I'll say, so, John, Mary, when was the last time you raised prices? And I'll get like a deer in the headlights look, right? You've seen that before, right? Like, wow, it's been a couple of years. Well, your costs are going up on average 3 to 4% every year. Cost of living going up 3 to 4% every year. Your costs are going up. So if you're not raising your prices at least 3 to 5% every year, you can't help but see less profit. You can't help but see an erosion of profitability. So the key is you should be raising your prices every year at least 3 to 5%, just keeping up with the increase in costs, if not more. Okay. So here was another interesting study that was done. This speaks to the psychology of pricing. There's a whole psychology to pricing. I think I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that I go to Costco all the time to shop, and almost every item at Costco ends in what? What price? 99.
99.
Everything. $1.99, $5.99, $20.99. Well, we know there's a psychology because $20.99 just sounds better than $21, right? So they did this study where they paired up different complementary products that usually you would buy. When you buy one, you buy the other. Like, I don't know, salt and pepper. I don't know, two products you would normally buy together. And they looked at the pricing of the two products to see which pricing combination resulted in more sales of the lower price item. So we have $1.99 and $3. We have $2 and $2.99. We have $2 and $3, $1.99 and $2.99. So which of these do you think resulted in the more sales of the lower price item? Margarita, I'll pick on you. Which one do you think resulted in the more sales of the lower price item?
The 299, the two and 299.
Ah, very close, but no. John, which one? Which one got the most sales for the lower price item?
I think the 199 and 3.
You're exactly right. And why do you think that is, John? You're right.
I think the differential is really $1, and psychologically, that $3 just stands out as, wow, that's expensive.
You're exactly right. In psychologically, the difference between $1.99 and $3 is $2, because our mind only sees the 1 and the 3, and we see a $2 differential there. Where the 2 and $2.99, those seem to be the same price. The 2 and the 3, there seems to be a $1 differential there. The $1.99, the $2.99, there seems to be a $1 differential there. My point is that when we think about pricing and pricing strategy, understand that there's a whole psychology to setting prices. And the simplest example of that is $1.99 seems much cheaper than $2. And yet, what are we talking about? We're talking about a penny, right? We're talking about a penny. So as you're setting your prices, just understand, that there's a psychology, and think about how will this price be perceived by the market. I had somebody yesterday, a consultant, and she was looking at her pricing, and she was going to charge her client $500 an hour. $500 an hour, that's an expensive consultant. And I said, Alita, go with $495. Because $495 just seems a lot cheaper than $500. $495 seems like $400 versus $500.
Tim, it's so amazing that you just said that, because I wanted to add something to that. I commented last week that I was updating my website, so I put a promotional on there and said that we went from $125, from $100 to $98 promotional, $2 down, and I have had so many appointments for clients.
Yeah, big difference.
And it's just $2.
Yeah, just $2. Yeah, and my guess is you could have done 99 and probably had a similar impact. Yeah.
Yes, I could have, but my co-workers and my business partners decided that extra $, 98
a little more. Yeah. So
I see a lot of pricing, and if you're buying, like say, a lot of people do these seminars and stuff like that, or webinars. They're charging, it ends in a 7, like $297 or $197, or it always ends in a 7. It almost seems universal.
Well, here's, if you don't know this, if you're a Costco shopper, you probably know this. Anything that ends in anything other than 99 has been discounted. So if you see a price at Costco that says 47, 77, even 97, that price has been discounted.
Usually it actually pertains more to the fact that they're going to get rid of it.
Yeah,
well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. All right, so here's just one more little quick study, but an important point. Power of Free, they gave consumers a choice of paying, what you see here is a chocolate kiss and a Lindt truffle, delicious, both of them. And the choice was to pay 14 cents for the Lindt truffle versus 1 cent for the Hershey Kiss. Which one, Julie, which one do you think people picked?
I have to be honest, I was not paying attention.
Right, 14 cents for the Lindt truffle, 1 cent for the Hershey Kiss. Which one would you go with?
The Hershey Kiss.
3 times as many people took the Lindt truffle. Cents versus a penny. Of course, I'll take the Lindt truffle. But then they lowered the price of the Hershey Kiss. They went from a penny to free. Same product, just lowered the price of the Hershey Kiss from a penny to free. 75% of the same people chose the Hershey Kiss. The message there is the power of free. Free is the most powerful word in marketing. Free is the most powerful word in marketing. I want you to use that word judiciously. Clearly, I don't want you giving away everything, but I do also want you to think about what is it that you could be offering for free? Because there's no question it gets people's attention. Free evaluation, free consultation, free shipping, free packaging. What could you be offering for free? Just something to think about.
Yes, Tenley.
Right?
Yeah, I am. I'm on a webinar right now till noon.
John, you need a mute.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right. Free is the word. So back to pricing. On occasion, I understand that there's a need to discount prices. I hate when it happens, but sometimes we feel a need to discount prices. So here are some thoughts, considerations in discounting your pricing. The first is discount briefly. You don't want your customers to get accustomed to lower pricing. So maybe you discount for a day, you discount for a weekend, you discount for a sale period. If you can, discount briefly, short period of time. Second, you want to discount credibly. There should be a good reason for the discount. It could be, hey, we got a great deal and we're passing it on to our customers. It could be, you're a great customer and we want to reward you with a lower price. It could be that today is our 10th anniversary, February 9th, and we're discounting everything. There should be a reason for the discount. Think about it. If there's not a good reason, if I've been one of your customers for 10 years and I've been paying $1 for this pen, and all of a sudden you advertise this pen for 90 cents with no good reason, what am I thinking? I've been getting ripped off. I've been getting ripped off for 10 years. I've been paying $1 when I should have been paying 95 cents. There's got to be a credible reason, and we have to be able to communicate a credible reason for the discount. Third idea on discounting is to discount creatively. Rather than just, hey, 2% discount, maybe it's a buy one, get 2% off. Maybe it's a come into the store and we'll give you a discount. Maybe it's a refer a friend and we'll give you a discount. Discount creatively rather than just, hey, here's a 5% discount. Okay. Now, the flip side of a discount is maybe we want to raise our prices. As scary as that might be for many people. Some ideas around discounting. One is understand what the biggest obstacle is in raising prices. Anyone want to guess what the biggest obstacle is in raising prices?
The
Fear.
potential of losing customers.
It's you. You are the biggest obstacle in raising prices. You and what's going on up here in our head, all the thinking and rethinking and consternation and fear that we go through up here, you and I are the biggest obstacle to raising our prices. We tend to overthink, over-strategize, overcompensate when we're thinking about raising prices versus just doing it. The two biggest questions I think that we need to ask as we're thinking about raising prices are the following. Can we and should we? Two questions to ask when we're thinking about raising our prices. Can we? I mean, can we in terms of, what our prices, can we, how do I want to put this? Mechanically, can we raise our prices? Are our prices written in stone? Are they in a book? Are they on our website? logistically, can we raise prices? Maybe that's a better word. And then the second question is, should we? Is this the right time? Do we have the right message? Do we have the right product or service that we can raise prices on? Do we have the right reason for raising prices? Can we and should we? Another consideration in raising prices is to separate your existing customers and new customers. Because it might be that you don't want to raise the prices on your existing customers because they're loyal, they've been with you for a while, whatever the reason might be. But you could raise the prices for new customers. So it doesn't have to be across the board price increase or decrease, price increase. You could say, okay, these customers, I'm going to raise prices, but not these. New customers, yes, but not old customers. You can separate your customers. One of the best exercises that I know that companies do once a year is they look at the profitability of their customers once a year on a customer by customer basis. Customer A, what's our profitability on customer A for over a year? What's our profitability on customer B? And when you do that, I think you'll be surprised, particularly in B2B sales, not as much consumer sales, but I think you'll be surprised how much your profitability varies by customer. And if that's the case, you've got a pretty good reason to raise prices on those customers. I know I've had customers when I've done that analysis and I've figured out I was actually losing money on certain customers because of the time and effort that was being spent on those customers. I had to raise my prices. I had to raise prices on those customers. Okay. All right. So Natalie, we're at a good time for our first break this morning as we switch topics. When we come back, we're going to talk about your brand and what is a brand? How do we leverage our brand? Natalie, shall we take a break?
Sure.
Okay. How long? Let's take 6 minutes. How's that? 6 minutes.
Okay. I'll set a timer.
When we come back, we'll talk about your brand. I hope that each of you had a chance to watch the Seth Godin TED Talk. That was your assignment between last week and today. In that TED Talk, he says three things that are, I think, three questions he poses that I think are at the essence of marketing. And those are, the three questions were, who are you upsetting? Who are you connecting? And who are you leading? I hope that you wrote those. I hope that you wrote those three questions down. Who are you upsetting? In other words, what changes are you making that's upsetting the market? Maybe upsetting your competitors, maybe upsetting your customers, but not necessarily in a negative way, just causing them to do something different than they're used to doing. Who are you upsetting? And then who are you connecting? Well, we know that it's one of the primal needs of every human being is to feel connected to each other, to feel connected to family, to our neighbors, to our employees, to our customers. And so Godin makes the case that that's something as business owners, that's a responsibility that we can take on to help connect people, help connect our employees, help connect our customers, make them feel like they're a part of a tribe, of a gathering, a community. And then the third question is, who are you leading? I had a friend that used to say that we're all the mayor of our own village. We're all the chief of our own tribe, right? All of us have followers. Each of you have followers. Those followers would include your employees, your vendors, your customers, your neighbors. Each of you have followers. Each of you are a leader. So the question is, who are you leading? So as you think about your marketing efforts, I think those three questions are central to all of your marketing efforts. Who are you upsetting? Who are you connecting? And who are you leading? And if you've not listened again to the Seth Godin TED Talk, I strongly encourage you to do that because he goes into detail about all three of those questions. Okay. All right, so I want to pick up where we left off. The topic we're going to move into now is your brand. The best.
Tim, you're muted. We
You're
can't hear
muted.
you.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, Tim, I think you might have been disconnected from audio or you're muted because we can't hear you. You're actually on mute. I
So
can see you on mute. There you
okay.
go.
So have I been muted the whole time?
About, yeah.
Oh, I got to rerun the tape. I'm sorry.
The last we heard was you asked if someone was there.
All right. Did I talk about the Seth Godin TED Talk?
Yes.
Good, good. Okay. So let me pull up my screen. This computer has a mind of its own. Let's see. There we go.
Okay, really quick about the TED Talk. I think you mentioned it was a homework, and I feel like last week you also maybe mentioned that something was going to be sent out about homework. Did I miss something, or is there a place that we're looking for resources here?
No, what you will be getting is I'm putting together essentially a syllabus for the program that will identify for every session what the topic is, what your assignment is, and if there's anything to watch or do between sessions. Look for that before next week. We've been sending out a weekly email, and we just felt like we probably need to do both an email and some document that you've got that says what you're responsible for. Okay. All right, so let's talk about your brand.
Actually, Tim, yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt. So what we decided is there's a web page. Everybody already has the link to it, but at the end of the webinar, I'll share it with you again. And on that web page, you can see everything that Tim is going to cover week by week. So you'll be responsible, in a sense, to go to that web page every week and see what it is that you have to read for the next week. I'll make updates to that page periodically as needed, and I'll also put the Zoom link in that page for you to join. So at the end, I'll show you guys how to access that web page as well.
Perfect. Thank you. So your brand is the entire experience that the market has with your product or service. It's what you, essentially, it's what you stand for. It's what you stand for. It's your promise to the marketplace. So what is not your brand? Your brand is not just your logo. It's not just your website. It's not just the look and feel of your marketing materials. It's not just a catchy phrase. Certainly not a meaningless waste of money. Brand is your truth. So it's your value. Your brand is your value, essentially, in shorthand. Abbreviated form is the value that you bring to the market. Your brand is what you as a company stands for. It's what you care about. It's in sync with your vision, your mission, your core values. And in that light, it guides the behavior, the priorities of your employees. Your brand is the experience that customers have when they come in contact with you, either virtually, like we have so much in the past year, or by phone, in person. Another way to think of your brand is your brand is a promise that you keep, not just make, but a promise that you actually keep with your customers. Again, what I heard this week, I was listening to a podcast and they referenced brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. Again, suppliers, customers, influencers, that's your brand. And so you have on the next page there what's called the brand pyramid, and it's just a way of looking at your brand. We're the top of the pyramid, the most visible part of the pyramid. This is who you are, the name of your company, the nouns and adjectives that describe your company. They're friendly, they're fast, right? It's who you are. The middle part of the brand pyramid, not quite as visible, but certainly significant, is what you do, what you sell, what you provide. And then the bottom piece of the brand pyramid, the most significant, the foundation of the brand, the bottom piece of the brand pyramid, is what impact you have on those around you, your customers, your community, your vendors. What impact you have on them? How would they describe the impact that you have on them? So Steve Yastrow is an author, has written a number of books on marketing books, but primarily on this topic of branding and what he refers to as brand harmony. Brand harmony is essentially, how do you get all the different pieces of your business, all the different messages coming out of your business, how do you get them in sync? How do you get them all on the same page? And he refers to that as brand harmony. And when I think of that term harmony, I think of music, right? So just imagine for a moment that you're going to a concert. Think of your favorite musician, your favorite artist. Could be a symphony, it could be a rock band, it could be a chorus. Think of your favorite music. And what usually makes that music so memorable is the harmony, is the musician's ability to play together, to play in sync. So imagine you're sitting in a theater, in an arena, in a stadium, listening to your favorite music. Beautiful sound, right? Just imagine listening to your favorite music, and then right in the middle of that concert, right in the middle of that performance, you hear a pounding sound behind you, and you look behind you, and there's somebody just kind of clapping their hands out of sync, making kind of a strange noise, a distraction, and you wish that person would stop making that noise, because it's a distraction. It's taking away from the harmony that you're listening to. And then in addition to the clapping that you hear behind, the person sitting right next to you at the concert starts talking to their neighbor, having a conversation, just chatting with their neighbor, chatting. And once again, you're distracted from the music, from the beautiful harmony, by the people next to you having this conversation. And now the person on the opposite side of you has pulled out their purse, and they're looking in their purse, they're jiggling around all the items in their purse, trying to find a pen, a keys, their wallet, something, they're just making racket. So you got the clapping behind you, the conversation on your left, the woman on your right playing around in her purse. What just happened to your experience at the concert? What just happened to that harmony that you were enjoying? Well, Yastrow refers to this as disharmony. And he makes the point that it's just as easy for companies to create harmony as it is disharmony. Disharmony is when all of the messages, all the communication that's coming out of your company is dysfunctional, is adjunct, is not connected. Disharmony. So one of our objectives when it comes to branding is creating this brand harmony, making sure that all of our messaging, all of our communication is aligned, is synchronous. So think about that. If I'm a customer of yours and I have, I don't know, a dozen contacts with your company over a period of time, what are the chances that all of those 12 contacts are similar in terms of the brand, in terms of the messaging? Or is it possible that maybe there would be some disharmony in that communication? Jan Carlson was famous back in the late 1980s. He was the CEO at a huge airline, SAS Airlines, Scandinavian Air. And he was famous because he wrote a book about this idea of branding and harmony. And they figured out, as an airline with any one customer, that customer was going to have, from beginning to end of their trip, over 100 different contacts with the airline. From when they book their trip to they confirm their trip to they get to the airport, check their bags, ticket agent, get on the plane, all over 100 different contacts with the airline. And he said, essentially, our job is to make sure that each of those contacts, he referred to those contacts as moments of truth, over 100 moments of truth, to make sure that each of those moments of truth, that there's some consistency in terms of our service, some consistency in terms of our communication. Again, brand harmony. So think about all the different ways that anyone can come in contact with your business, in person, by phone, digital. To what degree are your customers and prospects enjoying brand harmony? Are they all hearing the same music, getting the same message? Or are they experiencing brand disharmony? One of the scariest things that I'll recommend to any business owner is to call their own business, pretend to be a customer, see what it's like. And I've had a couple CEOs who do that, and they respond back to me. They said, Tim, that was a horrific experience. I had no idea that every call went into voicemail, or that to get somebody in customer service, I had to go through 3 different people first. Or the worst is, no one is answering the phone. I had one CEO tell me that. I called my own business and nobody picked up the phone. We're spending millions of dollars on marketing and no one is answering the phone. Brand disharmony. So one of your assignments after today is to kind of take an inventory of your brand, whether it's your website, it's how people are answering the phone when they come in contact with your company. What are they experiencing? And remember, the experience doesn't necessarily have to be amazing, but the experience needs to be consistent. I'll never forget once going to get my hair cut, and it was the first time I went to this particular shop, and it was an amazing experience. When I first got there, I got greeted right away, and they said, well, it's going to be maybe 5 minutes. Can we get you something to drink? A beer, a glass of wine while you wait. I thought, wow, that's amazing. No one's ever offered me even a beverage when I've gone to get my hair cut before. So they brought me a beer and I sat down. They had a big screen TV. They were showing a ball game. What an amazing experience. I went back the next time and a very nice person greeted me. Didn't offer me anything to drink. I waited a little longer than I thought. No ball game on. There was a magazine to read. It was a very different experience. Wasn't a bad experience, but it was a very different experience. And so that's my point, is sometimes I think we shoot so high that we forget that what customers want more than anything is no surprises. No surprises. Consistency in our branding, consistency in the experience itself. No surprises. Okay. So why does all this matter in terms of branding? Brands are harder to copy than what it is that you do. If you think about any of your products, I could probably find a way, Rick could find a way, Margarita could find a way to copy whatever it is that you do. In many cases, we can copy your product, we can copy your service, might be able to clone your employees. I don't know, science is advancing. But the hardest thing to copy is a brand. It's really hard to duplicate another company's brand. So that's one reason why your brand is so important. There's a lot of research that indicates that companies with strong brands tend to enjoy higher profit margins because they can charge more. There's a perceived value when your company has a very positive brand that allows you to charge more. It's why that chicken sandwich at Chick-fil-A that I get costs more than the one at McDonald's. Because for me, there's just a perception that I should pay more when I go to Chick-fil-A versus McDonald's. It could be the exact same sandwich. In fact, the McDonald's chicken sandwich might actually be better. I don't know. But I just, because of the Chick-fil-A brand, I've just come to believe I should pay a little bit more. And third, why is this important? Well, if you ever go to sell your business, an important calculation in what someone is willing to pay for your company is the brand that you've established. It's that intangible value that adds, in some cases, significant amounts of money to the valuation of your company beyond what's on your balance sheet. That's why a brand is so important. Okay. All right, so now I want to shift to kind of our next topic, and that is marketing implementation. How do we've done our market research. Remember the marketing circle. We've done our research. We've come up with our plan, our marketing plan. We've come up with our goals, our strategies and such. Now we need to implement. Well, one of the decisions is in terms of the marketing plan, what tools, what techniques, what strategies are we going to choose? Because you've got last time I looked, over 60 different ways of reaching your customer. And that's changing all the time. So we have to decide, okay, of all those different ways of reaching prospects and reaching customers, which of those we want to employ in our marketing plan. Also know that at the highest level, there are two different types of marketing. There's branding and there's what's referred to as direct marketing. Branding is typically employed as a strategy to build awareness in the marketplace so that people, they know who we are. They know what we stand for. They know what we sell. So that branding is essentially building awareness, and it makes sense to invest money into branding, building awareness. But then on the flip side, the other bucket, so to speak, is direct marketing. And the purpose of direct marketing is transactional, is to get sales. It's picking up the phone and calling a prospect. It's sending an email to someone asking for a sale. It's putting a sign out front of our store saying, big sale today, come join us. So the idea is as you're looking at your marketing plan and your marketing strategies is to make a decision about those two areas. How much awareness am I looking to build versus how much of a need is there for sales, revenue, transactions? And I can tell you that just over the last couple of years, at least what I've seen, is there's been a transition of sort of less branding, less investment in brand, and more of an investment in direct marketing. And I'm seeing this across the line in all different industries, that companies are spending less on branding and spending more on direct marketing. There's been a shift. And so again, not that means that you have to necessarily do that, but just something to keep in mind as you're thinking about where you're directing your marketing efforts. And then in addition, as we think about our marketing plan, the question oftentimes comes up is how much money should I be spending on my marketing? And there's been a lot of research done on that. And the easiest answer is it depends. Depends if you're business to consumer, if you're retail versus business to business. Business to consumer, companies tend to spend more as a percent of revenue on marketing than B2B and B2G. It also depends on how long you've been in business. If you're a brand new business or a relatively new business, you're going to spend more as a percentage of revenue on marketing than a more mature business or business that's been around longer. the average company across all industries, across all sizes, the average company probably spends 3 to 5% of revenue on marketing. But again, not unusual that newer companies or maybe more aggressive companies are spending between 5 and 10% or higher. It really depends a lot on where you are in terms of the life cycle of businesses, how much growth you're looking at, what type of business that you're in, what your competitors are doing. I also want you, as you're thinking about your marketing strategies, to be aware of timing. Because my experience is it's not unusual as you engage in a marketing campaign of sort, that it may take 3 to 6 months before you begin to see results. And it's what's referred to as the flywheel effect. The flywheel effect is, you're pushing, you're exerting a lot of effort and not always seeing immediate results. The flywheel effect. And yet at some point you begin to see the phone starts to ring. You're starting to get sales. You're starting to see results from your marketing efforts. But just know it's rare that you're going to see immediate results. And in terms of a marketing campaign, it could be 3 to 6 months before you see significant results. So patience is really important when it comes to marketing. Also know that when you have completed a marketing campaign, not unusual that there could also be a 3 to 6 month hangover from that campaign, that you will continue to see results after the campaign, after you've been running the ads, after you've been doing the digital marketing, the telemarketing. 3 to 6 months later, you may still get responses. You may still get results. So not unusual that there's a couple month hangover after the marketing campaign. Another consideration in terms of timing is where are we in terms of economic cycles, right? We all know the economy goes up and the economy goes down, ebbs and flows. We see that all the time. Most economic cycles have a 5 to 7 year lifespan to that upward climb. Well, we know what happened last year. Last year, due to a global crisis, we went into an economic recession, right? Began in the first quarter. We certainly saw it the second quarter of last year. GDP went down, unemployment went up. Second quarter of last year, we went into a recession last year. And the good news is, as quickly as we went into the recession, we came out of the recession, third and fourth quarter, and the economy now is about where it was pre-COVID. We're in a recovery right now. So I bring all that up because I think as you're working on your marketing plan, you want to be mindful of where is the economy. And for me, the best time to be investing in marketing is during a recovery. When the economy is just coming back as it is now, historically, that's the best time to be investing in your marketing. For a couple reasons. One, as consumers now are re-engaging, thinking, wow, I haven't traveled in a while, haven't been to a restaurant in a while, haven't done this in a while. As consumers are kind of awakening to some degree, you want to be present in terms of your marketing. And many of your competitors right now are cutting back on their marketing because they say, hey, we're still in a kind of a downswing in the economy. Why would I be doing marketing? Well, it's unfortunate that people think that way, but that's good for you, because if your competitors are cutting back on the marketing, what better time for you to accelerate your marketing? Now is the time, in terms of economic cycles, now is the time to be investing in your marketing. Versus if we're on the downswing of an economy, if the economy has peaked and everyone is doing marketing, that would not be a good time to accelerate your marketing. Now is a good time. Okay? So years ago, one of my favorite marketing books was called Guerrilla Marketing, and the author was J. Conrad Levinson. He has since passed away, but this book has survived the times, and I think it's probably as popular now as it was when it first came out. And in the book, Levinson shared 3 of his rules for marketing, which I think, again, are as important today as they were when he first came out with these. The first rule is he calls the 10-30-60 rule. And it goes as follows. Levinson said, invest 10% of your marketing budget to the universe, meaning to everybody, kind of mass marketing, 10%. Spend 30% of your marketing budget on your prospects, and 60% of your marketing focused on your existing customers. 10% on the universe, 30% on your prospects, 60% on your existing customers. What is different or unusual about that rule compared to what we normally hear?
Not really looking at net new, just focusing more on existing.
Yeah. Many companies reverse the 30 and the 60. They spend 60% of their marketing trying to get new customers and 30% on their existing customers, which is unfortunate because, one, your existing customers, they already know you, they already like you, they're already doing business with you. Why would you not want to invest in those relationships? They're going to give you referrals. And we know maybe one of the most effective forms of marketing is referrals. So why would we not invest more in our existing customers than prospects who don't know us, more expensive to acquire, may only show up once and leave? Just makes sense. We should be spending more of our money on our existing customers.
Would that include former customers? Because who know you?
Yes. Good question. Yeah. For whatever reason, if someone has just maybe they don't have the need anymore, or they've gone somewhere else, sure, I would reinvest in those customers. Yeah. Number 2, the second rule from Levinson is the 1-10-100 rule. And it goes as follows. $1 spent communicating on your staff is the equivalent of $10 spent communicating within your industry, which equals $100 spent talking to customers. $1 speaking to your staff is the same as $10 speaking to the industry is the same as $100 spent talking to customers. Net, what is he suggesting? Where do we want to make a significant investment in terms of our marketing?
People.
To our people. Yeah, we tend to overlook our own people, our employees. And yet, in many cases, they're the most powerful marketing we have. Who's spending most of their time talking to our customers? It's our employees. And if our employees don't understand our competitive advantage, if they don't understand our brand, if they don't understand our pricing strategies, what success are we going to have with our marketing? Marketing starts with our employees, educating, training our employees. Yeah. The third rule from Levinson is called the rule of thirds. And this relates to digital marketing, your online marketing. And he said the following: 1/3 of that marketing budget should be attracting traffic to your website, trying to get traffic and then hopefully conversions on your website. 1/3 should be invested in the design of your website, and 1/3 in improving and maintaining your website. And the part that I find most frequently overlooked is that last third, the improving and maintaining of your website. It's sad for me sometimes to visit websites and see that they're out of date. to see the last article or white paper was published a couple years ago, or the people that they show as employees are no longer working there. I think this last third is the one that's most overlooked, is just making sure that our website is current, that it's updated, that it's working. Okay.
This times, do we include things like, if we rely on like a Facebook or a social media presence, would we include that in, traffic to our site, followers, like all that kind of thing? Or
making sure, the ways that people are finding our site through social media, and then making sure when they get to our site that they're going to find what they're looking for. As we talked about last week, are they looking for an education? Are they looking for answers? Are they looking to be inspired? And then making sure that when they get to our website that we have the means of converting those prospects into customers. Because it's one thing to get traffic, and it was not just even a couple of years ago that all we talked about was SEO, search engine optimization. How do we get more traffic on our website? But there's been a big trend just in the last couple of years, moving away from SEO and moving towards conversion. Because if all I'm getting is traffic, and if I'm not getting conversion, I'm wasting a lot of money. So making sure that our website is capable of converting prospects to customers. Okay. So now the last thing I want to talk about today, spend time on today, is evaluation. Okay, we have implemented our marketing campaign. We got the right tools, the right strategies. Now, how do we know if it's working or not? Well, one way to judge that, a couple of quotes here. A really good book on marketing, The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. The author said, more money is wasted in marketing than in any other human activity. I believe that's true. Department store magnate John Wanamaker said the following: I know that half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. I just don't know which half. And why? Because for many companies, they haven't figured out how to judge their marketing, how to evaluate their marketing. How do we know if it's working or not? So one way to judge, and I think this is in your workbook, is to think of your marketing. Well, let me take a step back. Take a step back. As we're looking at evaluating our marketing, I think we have to ask 3 questions. And I'm not sure this is in your handout. You might want to jot these down. 3 questions as we think about evaluation. The 3 questions are: what should we be measuring? What metrics should we be looking at? There's a whole host of marketing key performance indicators that we can be looking at. So what should we be measuring? Secondly, when should we be measuring? Are we measuring monthly, weekly, daily? How often should we be measuring our marketing? And then the third question as it relates to evaluation is, how should we be measuring? Are we measuring internally? Are we measuring externally? Are we using surveys? Are we using interviews? How do we want to be measuring our marketing activity? So an example of that, when I think of marketing, oftentimes I think of a pipeline, as I think of a marketing cycle. And there are different stages in that marketing pipeline. So the first stage is just getting them into the pipeline. And then the typical sales pipeline might have 4 different stages. The first stage may be awareness, just making sure they understand who we are and what we're selling. The second stage may be an engagement, a phone call, an in-person interview. Third stage may be a sales proposal. And the fourth stage might be a contract. That's just an example. But a typical sales process, a pipeline, usually has 4 or more stages. So one of the things that I'm evaluating is that sales pipeline. I'm evaluating things like flow. Is there a flow from stage 1 to stage 2, stage 3 to stage 4? Are prospects making their way through that pipeline? Something else I might want to measure is balance. Do I have balance in that pipeline, or do I have 30 prospects and only 2 proposals? I want to see balance in that pipeline between the 4 stages. Something else that I might measure in that sales pipeline would be conversion. What's my conversion rate from step 1 to step 2, from step 2 to step 3? 20%, 30%, 50%. What's my conversion rate? And the fourth thing that I might measure in that sales pipeline is velocity, speed. How long is it taking me to convert a prospect to a customer? A month, a week, a day? Velocity, how fast am I converting prospects to customers? Okay. So that's just an example of a way that we would measure our marketing efforts, because our marketing efforts will impact each stage of that funnel, of that sales pipeline. Another way to look at the measurement of our marketing efforts is to do what's referred to as a return on investment calculation. I think you have this in your handout. So just imagine I'm putting together a marketing campaign, let's say for the next 30 days, a marketing campaign. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to calculate what are my expenses in this marketing campaign. And you see campaign development, mass media, direct marketing, total budget, $165,000. Then I've got to calculate my labor expense, my staff expense, $2,813. So the whole campaign is going to cost me $167,813. That's my investment. That's my cost. Then I'm going to look at the flip side is what is going to be my return on this investment. So let's just say I'm imagining that I'm going to reach out to 27,000 prospects, and I'm hoping to be successful with a little over 2% of those 27,000. So I'm expecting 594 sales. Average sale is $875. So my revenue from this campaign is going to be just over $500,000, $519,000. I know my gross margin on those sales is going to be 38% or $197,000. So my gross margin on this campaign is going to be $197,505. So my return on investment is going to be my gross margin of $197,000 divided by my investment of, no, I'm sorry. So I'm going to subtract my investment from my gross margin, 197 minus 167, and I get a gross margin of 29,693. Now I can calculate my return on investment by taking that 29,693, that's my gross margin dollars from this campaign, divided by my investment of 167,813, and I get a return on investment, this is my metric, of 17.7%. Return on investment, almost 18%. Well, then I have to ask myself, well, is that a good number? Well, if my last campaign, my return on investment was 25%, not so good. If a year ago I did a similar campaign and I got a 10% return on investment, okay, this looks better. If I'm going to borrow the $167,000 from the bank for this campaign and I'm going to pay an interest rate of 6%, am I willing to pay 6% interest to get a 17% return? Maybe. The idea is, number one, I want to calculate what's my return on investment. And then secondly, make a determination whether that is an acceptable number or not. So I want to suggest, as you're working on your marketing and you're putting together your marketing plan, think in terms of campaign. A campaign could be a week, it could be a month, it could be a quarter, and then take time to calculate what's going to be our return on investment. What can we expect? Another way of evaluating our marketing efforts is by calculating something called Net Promoter Score. Anyone familiar? Show of hands. Anyone familiar with Net Promoter Score? Yeah, a couple. Okay. So it comes from this book, a book called The Ultimate Question 2.0, written by Fred Reichheld. What he suggested is maybe the most important question, but when we survey customers, the most important question that we should ask of our customers is the following. On a scale of 1 to 10, what's the likelihood that you would recommend or refer our business to a friend or neighbor, to a colleague? And he refers to this as the ultimate question. Again, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the likelihood that you would refer or recommend our business to a friend, a colleague, or a neighbor? And based on the responses, we can then calculate what's called a Net Promoter Score. And you have this calculation in your workbook. I'll walk you through it. Anyone who gives us on the survey a 9 or a 10 is considered a promoter. They're a raving fan. They're a happy customer, 9 or a 10. If we get a 7 or an 8, that's considered a passive customer. Passive meaning they're okay. They like us. They may not recommend us, but they're okay with what they've gotten. They're passive. Anyone who gives us a score of 6 or below is considered a detractor. They're not happy. They're not satisfied. And more than likely, they're going to go somewhere else next time. So the way that we calculate Net Promoter Score, NPS, is we take the percentage of respondents who were promoters and subtract from that the percentage of responses that were detractors. Notice we're ignoring the passive responses. Percentage promoters minus percentage detractors. So as an example, I do a customer survey, I ask the question, and 50% of the responses are promoters, 20% are passive, and 30% are detractors. So I'm going to take the 50% promoters minus the 30% detractors, and I get a Net Promoter Score of 20%. Well, according to the book, Fred Reichheld's book, the average Net Promoter Score for all companies, thousands of companies that use this, is between 10 and 15%. 50% is considered world-class. If you're at 50% or higher, you're world-class. Apple, Google, Harley-Davidson are examples of companies that have had Net Promoter Score higher than 50%. But the great thing about this is we now have a quantitative way of measuring our customer satisfaction, customer loyalty, even better, customer loyalty. Rather than just kind of a gut feeling, he likes us, she doesn't like us, they seem to like us, we now have a way of scoring our customer loyalty. And once we've done this the first time, now when we do it the second time, the third time, the fourth time, we can measure how we're doing in terms of marketing in general and specifically customer loyalty, because we're looking to improve this score every time we do the survey. So if you're not already using Net Promoter Score, I would strongly encourage you, one, to start surveying your customers. And if you're surveying your customers, make sure that you ask this question. Scale of 1 to 10, what's the likelihood that you would refer our business to a friend, a neighbor, or a colleague. And whether you're B2C, B2B, B2G, doesn't make any difference. A, you should be surveying your customers, and B, you should be asking this question. Okay. Any questions on evaluating our marketing efforts? Any questions?
This is John. We use a company called, or our franchise uses a company called Listen 360. And our net promoter score for all of our 4 centers over the last 6 months was 72%. And over the last 12 months, it was 88%.
Wow. That's really good. That's really good. So now your challenge is, how do we keep it up there? How do we keep it up there? Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Christine. Is anybody set a number of respondents that might be needed to reduce bias in the survey results? Is it 100,000, 10,000?
That's Christine. That's a good question. And I'm not sure there's a set number that statistically validates a survey. I think it depends on your business, the number of customers. I would want, if you told me that, Tim, I've got 100 customers, I'd want to see results from at least 25% of those customers to me to seem valid. So I think it depends on the number of customers that you've got and the number of people that you're surveying. And there's a whole science to surveying customers and making sure that you get as many responses as possible. One of the keys, I think, is timing. A second is making the survey as simple to respond to as possible. Sometimes I'll get a survey, it'll be like 100 questions. And I'll think, I can't answer 100 questions. Or if it's, just circling yes or no versus wanting qualitative information where they want me to write a paragraph or two, too much work. The other thing is acknowledging your customers when they respond, thanking them, maybe even rewarding them for filling out a survey, and taking whatever action comes out of that survey. Being able to tell your customers, hey, 30 of you recommended this, and so we've started doing this. So just a couple ideas around surveys, but at least a significant number of the pool of customers that you've got. Any other questions on measuring your marketing? All right, I want to give you a couple, as we're wrapping up this module, a couple of best practices, a couple things that I've seen over the last 5 to 10 years in terms of marketing, just things that I've found to be best practices. Here's a couple of them. One is, I've always been a fan of what's called event marketing. Event marketing is essentially bringing your customers together for an event, whether it's a training, a sale, an opportunity to network, just going back to this idea that as human beings, we all have this innate need to connect with other human beings. And so if my company can be a way of connecting my customers, my friends, my colleagues, so event marketing is a way to do that. Clearly in the last year, event marketing has become much more difficult because we have the Zoom platform at our disposal versus getting together in person. But when we're able to get back together, I would encourage you to look at event marketing as just a strategy for marketing. Another best practice is, I call it a free demo. Free demo. As consumers have become less trustworthy, we all have become less trustworthy of companies and more cynical about marketing. I think more and more it's become important to allow potential customers to test drive our products and services. And so there are lots of different examples of that, right? Costco, I've mentioned a number of times. It used to be, not now, but it used to be pre-COVID, I could go to Costco and eat an entire meal while I was there, right? Because at the end of every aisle, they've got food that you can try out. Do you think they do that because Tim goes there and he's hungry? No, they're introducing new products to me in hopes that I will buy that cheese or those chips or whatever it is that they've got at the end of the aisle. So that's an example of a free demo. Another example is whenever I need to have work done, I own a Honda Accord. Whenever I need to have work done on my car at the dealership, I go to the dealership, and what do you think they offer me when I drop my car off for the day?
A free loaner?
Yeah, they give me a loaner. And here I'm thinking, wow, how considerate that rather than me waiting there all day for my car to get fixed, they give me a loaner. And so I get into this brand new 2021 car and I drive it for the day. And what do you think happens? At some point during the day, I think, this is a nice car. This is a really nice car. I wonder how much this car costs. I wonder if I could buy one of these cars. So by the end of the day, I come back and I'm asking about the 2021 Accords because I've been driving one all day. Free demo. So think about how that would play out for your company. What would be an example of a free demo for your product or service? What would be a way for prospects to just get a taste of what you do? Again, I'm not suggesting that you give away the farm, that you give away all your products and services, but what would be a way of allowing your prospects to test drive your product or service? Here's another idea. Offer a guarantee. How many of you offer a guarantee today? I'm just curious. Okay, good. Julie, what's the guarantee? What do you offer?
If someone relapses or struggles in their addiction for 1 year after they've been discharged, they can come back for tune-up for 7 to 10 days and get stabilized.
Great example. So why do we offer a guarantee? Well, sometimes in certain cases, customers aren't sure whether your product or service will do what you say. It's a new product maybe, or they've not done business with you before. And they just need something to get over that bit of uncertainty, that fear. And that's where a guarantee comes in. Doesn't work all the time, but my experience is in some cases, guarantees can be extremely effective in acquiring new clients. One of the best examples of a guarantee was in 2008, the last big recession. One of the car manufacturers offered a guarantee to people buying their cars. Does anyone remember what it was? It was Hyundai. Hyundai offered a guarantee. Anyone buying one of their cars, think about what was the biggest fear of buying a car during the recession. Well, I was worried that I buy the car, I lose my job, I go, I get, the car gets taken away and I owe all this money and I'm out of work. So Hyundai, this was marketing genius. They came out with a guarantee that said, if you buy a car, take out a car loan and lose your job, we will take back the car, cancel the note, and basically pretend this never happened. That was their guarantee. So what happened to car sales in 2008? They plummeted. Car sales went way down during the last recession, except for one car manufacturer. Who do you think it was? Hyundai. Their car sales went up 10% that year. Sales went up 10%, primarily because of the guarantee, a way of overcoming the fear of their prospects. So ask yourself, what is the greatest fear that my prospects have, and how can I help them overcome that fear? And here's the best suggestion I've heard relative to guarantees is determine a level of service that you're confident you can deliver 95% of the time. Determine a level of service that you're confident you can deliver 95% of the time, and then be willing to guarantee that level of service. So if Mike is confident that 95% of the time people are going to love his coffee, which I'm sure they will, then it would make sense for him to put a guarantee on that. I guarantee you'll love our coffee, and if not, it's free. I'm just putting that out there. That's, if I were in Mike's shoes, that's what I would do. Guarantee that you're going to love our coffee, knowing that 5% of the time, somebody's going to raise their hand and say, I didn't love your coffee. I'd like you to refund my money. Mike does that with glee. He does that happily, because that 95% guarantee just boosted his sales. How much? 10%, 15%, 20%. He's happy to pay out on the 5%. He's happy to pay out on the 5%. So again, figure out what you can deliver 95% of the time and be willing to guarantee that. And the reason guarantees work so well is because very few companies do them. Very few companies offer a guarantee. Think about your competitors. How many of your competitors offer a guarantee? And if not, right away, you have a competitive advantage. Your guarantee becomes your competitive advantage. No one else offers a guarantee. Okay. So I invite you to test drive a guarantee. Maybe don't offer it 100%. Test drive it, experiment with a guarantee, see what happens. Okay. All right. I've got one more best practice I'll share with you, and then we'll do a rapid recall. Let's see, which one will I pick? Customer advisory group. Customer advisory group. This works like a charm. The idea is to put together, for your company, put together an advisory group, 5 or 6 people who are willing to act as your advisors. They're willing to get together and meet maybe once a quarter. Customer advisory group, with the idea that they're going to provide you with input, data, information that you may not get otherwise from the market. They're going to tell you what's going on in the market. They're going to be your ears and eyes in the market. And once a quarter, they're going to get together and tell you what they've seen, what they've heard, what's going on. Okay, you hear that and you say, okay, that sounds reasonable. So I'll give you an example of how this works. So one of my clients did this. They set up customer advisory group. I think they had 5 people on the group, met quarterly, and he bought them dinner, took them out to a nice restaurant once a quarter. So he figured it cost him between $500 and $1,000 a meeting. That's not cheap, $500 to $1,000 a meeting, customer advisory group. But what was interesting is what happened to these advisors is they not only became his eyes and ears, they actually became outside salespeople, because they felt, because they were recognized as being part of his advisory group, when they weren't meeting, they were out essentially selling people on his business, telling people, you need to do business with Rick. Rick's great. You need to go to Rick's business. So what he got for, let's say, $500 a quarter, he added 5 outside sales reps. How many of you would enjoy having 5 outside sales reps for $500 a quarter? That's a pretty good deal. That's a pretty good deal. If they bring in 1 customer a quarter, have they not paid for their meeting? Oh yeah, easily. So that's why I really like this idea. Now, again, may not work for every business, may not work for every industry, but consider forming a customer advisory group. Every bank on the planet does this because they understand the advantage of having these, these spokespeople for the bank out in the community, waving their hand, say, hey, everyone should bank with this bank. Customer advisory group. Okay. All right. Let's do a let's start to wrap things up. Let's do a rapid recall. And Roxana, I'm going to start with you. Something you heard today that you found helpful, and then Angeline, you'll be next. Roxana.
I really enjoyed the portion we did on implementing, specifically with the surveys. It's something I've never considered. You're absolutely right. I hate doing them myself, and I often ignore them. But I really like the way you broke it down in terms of evaluating where we're at.
Good. And Roxana, I want to add to that because I think there are two important takeaways or reasons to do customer surveys. One is you're getting really good data. You should get really good information. And secondly, I think you're sending a very important message to your customers. And that message is, we care.
About your feedback and about you.
Yeah, your message is, we're listening and we care what you have to say.
And using that as towards our brand as well to help evolve.
Perfect. Yeah. All right, Angeline, and then Helen, you'll be next. Angeline?
Biggest takeaway for me was about the 1%. I'd had no idea that just the 1% increase would make an 11% increase in the prices. I own a restaurant, and the first thing that I always do is I think lower the price to get, to make up that difference. But so that was a huge aha moment for me.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And particularly in restaurant business, it's so competitive and margins are so important. The price increase could be dramatic. All right, Helen, you're next, and then Nicole.
Sure, thanks a bunch. And I pretty much have been offline on a client presentation during that time, but I did notice the slide that talked about the 1% difference. I believe it was in the operating profit or something of that nature. So I did get a glance of that. You're pretty much, it's a reminder that you're toast. First of all, if you don't have the necessary gross profit margin, if you lose something there, you're toast. And a point, it can be major you lose the war and the battle the rest of the way. So thank you for highlighting that. That's about all. I'll have to watch the recording, but thank you.
Good. Right, Nicole, and then Diamela, you'll be next. Nicole?
Hi, I'm sorry. It's been a day of a lot of disruptions. I think I'm with the others where I feel like I have to go back and re-listen to it.
Okay. All right.
I'm sorry I didn't get to absorb a lot today.
It's okay. I hope you'll listen to it. Nicole Holdman, what was helpful today? What are you taking away?
I like the idea of the types of marketing. So the free demo, I've already been playing with ideas. When you initially said it, I was like, how can a childcare provide a free demo? But the more I thought about it, there are ways, considering the specialty of my centers, because we focus on flexible care options. So we're actually open 7 days a week. I did have a question in regards to the SEOs being reverted to conversions. Can you just touch on that for a quick second?
So search engine optimization, SEO, is all about measuring how effective are we in getting traffic to our website. How effective are we in getting eyes on our website? So that when someone does a search, your company name comes up, on the first page or the first fold of the first page, whatever, or you're buying words or you're putting ads, whatever it takes, so that you're coming up at a high level on a search, and then people are coming to your website. And so companies spent inordinate amount of time and effort on SEO. And not that that was a bad idea, but the idea was let's get as many people to our website as possible. What they were overlooking is as they were building traffic on their website, people were coming to their website, but they weren't getting any sales because there was not nearly as much time and effort spent on when people come to our website, how do we convert those people into customers? And so there's been a shift over the last probably 3 to 5 years from, okay, SEO is great, but let's focus our time and energy on conversions. How do we get customers out of these visitors to our website? So we call that conversion optimization. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay, good. Julie and then Louise. Julie, what was helpful today?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. I liked the discussion about in terms of the economic cycle that now is the time to invest in marketing as we're on the kind of the upswing and people are kind of reawakening. And then I also want to make sure I'm a purple cow.
Okay, you want to stand out. Good, good. Luis, what was helpful today?
Finding and focusing products that the customer has no idea how much he needs to pay for. So essentially being able to name your price.
Yeah. Yeah. What is your equivalent of Louisiana hot sauce? What are you selling that no one knows how much they should be paying for? Yeah. Very good. Mike and then Laura.
Okay. Brandon was hit home to me, and also return on investments.
Okay. Being able to calculate that. Good. And then Mike Price, what was helpful today? And then Laura.
One of the major things we've been trying to focus on is what exactly our marketing effort needs to look like. So everything in today's session has been really helpful, but I really enjoyed the best practices you shared right there at the end. I really am going to try some of these. I think they really have some legs for our business.
Good, good. Laura and then Amy Williams, you'll be next.
For me was the brand harmony. Because it reflects everything that you do with your business. You have to be consistent in every single step you do with it. So then your company will get strength and will bring more customers to it. I think the brand harmony for me.
Good.
Thank you.
And Laura, I know you have invested in your brand. I love the name of your business. I love the colors, the logo. You've made a significant investment in your brand. And that creates value, creates extraordinary value. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim.
Amy, and then Rick, you'll be next.
My big takeaway was our kind of evaluating our competitive advantage, going from blah, blah, blah to having more of a wow factor. And then that we need to raise our prices because we can. And there's different ways to go about doing that and not being afraid to do that.
Yeah. And Amy, for me, one of the litmus tests in terms of raising prices that I will ask clients is, so when was the last time someone said your price was too high? And as much as you may not want to hear that, that's a good thing to hear on occasion, because if you never have anyone say that, more than likely you need to raise your prices. From time to time, it's okay for someone to say, wow, that seems a little high. That tells you that at least you're getting close to that price ceiling that we described. All right, Rick, you're next, and then Christine. Rick, you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, good.
Sorry, thank you. So I think things that I took away primarily, the competitive advantage needing to be kind of something that you can be measured by, something concrete. Not just like we're the best. And then how 1% price increase can really translate into a bigger profit increase than the other things that you could change from 1%. I also really enjoyed seeing highlighting the difference on Levinson's rules for marketing about spending a little bit more on existing customers and on staff, and how that money seems to have a better effect than trying to spend on the industry or on advertising or something like that. And a question that I have is because in the bike industry, we experienced a huge boom during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So I don't know now if we're experiencing a decline or if we're still on the up. I'm new to the whole industry, so I don't have as much data as my competitors do. And I'm noticing other people starting to spend on advertising. I'm trying to figure out if now is a good time for me to spend more as well, or if it's a bad time too, since the market may be saturated.
Yeah. Boy, that's a good one. Or have you signed up for a one-to-one meeting?
Yeah, we have an appointment at some point.
So when we get together, that'd be a good topic for us to explore. Maybe I can do a little research beforehand.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Christine and then John. Christine, what was helpful today?
Well, number one, I need to get a guarantee to help get people off the fence. And then having these two charts for the price discount and the increases is really good. Is to kind of flesh out how much I need to not be discounting, because I'm already told that I'm charging way too low. So thank you for that.
No, you're welcome. John and then Margarita.
Okay, several things. One is the competitive advantage. Obviously, it's we are unique. Mathnasium is unique, but I think our franchise ownership is unique as well. So that's obviously a regional issue. Your pricing is obviously great, because then I'm going to be focusing on pricing. I always worry about that, as you probably know. And lastly, I think offering a guarantee. And so they'll say, what is the greatest fear of your customers? All right. And it's hard to offer a guarantee to a student, a customer, when you don't know their student, whether they're going to be successful or not, or they got learning disabilities, etc. So I was thinking of just saying, look, we offer a registration fee. It's normally $149. And just saying, look, after 1 month, we would refund that registration fee.
It's good. Good idea. Good. Margarita, what was helpful today?
I agree with what everybody just said, but my most takeaway was the 60% on existing customers. So just cater more to their needs and bring in more clients to them versus trying to bring in new clients, which is always helpful. Making more purple cows, and lots of ideas that I just got that I was brainstorming while you were talking. One that I think is the demo, creating a personalized demo or for each special month. Since you talked about marketing your brand with months, discounting with a reason. So creating something personal for that month in a discounted way. Yeah. So that's what I've been brainstorming. I was like, ooh, I didn't have these ideas.
Thank you. I've been skipping around. I might have skipped was there anyone that I didn't get to? Anybody? Yeah, Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say the thing that really stood out for me is the same for John. I think that's what you were called on, but that's setting ourselves aside with proof and evidence for our in order to distinguish our competitive advantage. Really stuck out for me today, because I've probably been advertising myself without a whole lot of meat behind it. So I'll put a lot of thought to that before we talk.
Good. Anyone else that I didn't get to?
Me, Clara.
Yeah, Clara, go ahead.
So I have been having fear about raising prices, especially with the black and white copies. You know, when I go and I'm at the register, sometimes the customers laugh and say, that's so cheap, and we're like, it's becoming something that maybe it's time to raise the prices here.
Yeah, test it. Just test it. Test it on a day. Test it for a week. Test it on certain customers. See what happens. Yeah. Diamela?
The pricing considerations were excellent for us. We need to consider raising our prices as well, because we haven't done that in a long time. And then I love the part where it says that that $1 is the same as speaking to our people, 10 talking to our customers, and 100% speaking to prospective customers, $100. Yeah. So basically we need to invest more in talking to our people, definitely. And also I confirm that we usually host parties, or we host, we provide money, we sponsor parties for our clients, for their clients, because most of our customers are apartment communities. So I confirm that we're doing the right thing by, always investing in our current customers.
That's where we want to start. Very good. All right, so that brings us to the end of this module, the marketing module. When we get together next week, we'll move into module 3. Module 3 is about leadership and management. Essentially, it's about your people. We're going to talk about the attributes of leaders. I'm going to share with you a framework for leadership. We're going to talk about probably 2 questions, most important questions as it relates to your people is, number 1, how do I know which employees to keep and which not to keep? And then secondly, what is it that's most important to my employees? And I'll share with you 12 questions that you can ask to answer those questions. And then we'll also talk about one of the most misunderstood areas of management, and that is motivation. What is motivation? Why do we get motivation wrong so often? You'll have a pre-reading that we're going to send out about a really good article on delegation, which is a really important leadership skill and trait. So look forward to shifting gears next week, talking about your people for the next 2 weeks. If you've not signed up again for the one-to-ones, you can do that. If you haven't taken the assessment, you can still do that as well. Natalie, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Tim. So thank you all for being here with us today. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope to see you again next week. As Tim mentioned, you do have some pre-readings to do for tomorrow. I'm sorry, not for tomorrow, for next week. And the taking inventory of your brand as well. Make sure you do that before next week. And I'm actually going to share my screen with everybody so I can show you the page that I was referring to earlier, where you can see what you have to do for the next week. So just give me one moment to pull it up really quickly. Sorry, my internet's being slow. Okay, here we go. Okay, so the website is on the email that Gina sent the first week, but I will ask her if she can send it again for everybody. But it's basically the website that lists all the articles and everything that you'll need for the week of whatever module we're doing. And I'm going to be updating it weekly so that you guys can see what it is that you have to do. Here we go. So this is what the page looks like. It'll have the Zoom, it has the Zoom link right here. So you'll go to this page, click here, and it'll bring you to the Zoom meeting. The recordings of previous weeks, you just click here and it'll take you to the page where you can see the recordings as well. Just as a reminder, today's recording will be available in 2 to 3 business days. And then here it'll list everything that you'll need to do. So here is today's date, and it says the homework for next week, which is February 16th, is to take inventory of your brand and read the article that Tim has mentioned. When Tim shares the link to the article with me, I'll put it over here. So you can just click on it. And then these are all the links for everything that Tim will use next week. So all the videos, the one-page business plan, your marketing strategy planning, all of that is right here. So make sure you refer to this page on a weekly basis. That way you know what Tim will be covering the week the next week and what you have to read and any other additional assignments that Tim might do. But that'll all be placed here, and I will ask Gina if she can send everybody the link to this page again. So does anybody have any questions about that?
I found that helpful. It was in earlier emails, I think.
Yeah, it's in the
I
very
think the only
first
thing
email.
changed, so it wouldn't be bad if it was just in every email.
Yeah, so as we mentioned before, we're not going to be sending out weekly emails anymore. It's going to be, it's going to be your responsibility to make sure you go to the webpage and see what it is that you have to do for the next week or for the next session. So be sure that you take note of that and mark a little reminder that we won't be sending those emails anymore. So any other questions about that? No? Okay, well, thank you all for being here with us today. We hope to see you again next week. I hope you enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed hearing all of you. So we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Tim. Great presentation.
Thank you. Have a great one, everyone.